In episode 1, I described Title Studio's basic UI. In that tutorial, I advised that, in my opinion, the best workflow to employ was to come straight into the FX browser. There you can quickly create your title or lower third before going back into the basic UI to make final positional adjustments. In this tutorial, I'll describe the FX browser UI in more detail than I did in episode 1. I'll also explain how to make custom presets saved using the basic UI appear in the main preset list where you want them to. Note that the version of Continuum I'm using is version 2021.5. If yours is a different version to this, the UI might be slightly different. Welcome to episode 2 of this series on Boris FX's Title Studio. Before I describe the FX browser UI, I want to deal with custom presets in more detail. When saved using the custom preset section in the basic UI, as described in episode 1, custom presets are stored as XML files in this location. Presets in the main preset list are stored elsewhere as type BSP files. Because of this, as I mentioned in episode 1, custom presets don't normally appear in the main preset list. To get your custom preset to appear in the main preset list, there's a sequence of actions that you need to take. I'm using Vegas Pro 19 and I have loaded a project containing one short video event. I've already applied the Title Studio effect to this event. With the basic UI open, load your custom preset from the Custom Preset drop-down list. I've saved this custom preset, but I haven't saved it to the main preset list yet. Next, go to the main preset drop-down list and select Save. This will open up this location. Preset categories are stored here. Categories are simply folders where appropriate presets are stored. Create a new folder and call it, say, 01 Custom Presets, as I've done. The 01 will ensure that the category appears at the top of the category list. If you intend to categorize further, simply create new folders and give them unique category names. For instance, I wanted 2 subcategories, one for my main titles and one for my lower thirds. I've prefixed these with 01, 02. Now name your custom preset. It's a good idea to start the name with a double digit. This will ensure that it appears at the top of the preset list. I'll name mine 02 Main Title. If you need to save more custom presets, repeat the procedure. Don't forget to give your presets a unique numerical prefix. One important thing to note, after you've saved your custom preset, although it will appear in the FX browser presets, it won't immediately show in the basic UI's main preset list. You need to close down and relaunch your host NLE, in my case Vegas Pro 19. Your saved presets will then appear in the basic UI's main preset list. Another point to note, once a preset is saved to the main preset list, it's not possible to delete that preset from within the UI. If you're confident enough, you can use Windows File Explorer to navigate to the main presets location and delete or move presets there. Be careful though to only do this to your custom presets. Now the FX browser. As I advised in episode 1, it's best to come straight into the FX browser UI to create your title or lower third, as the presets available in this UI are the same as those available in the basic UI. As you're able to see thumbnails of all the presets, you may as well come straight to this UI instead of selecting a preset from the main preset list in the basic UI, which doesn't have thumbnails. At the top of the UI is the main menu bar. It consists of 4 options, 3 of which will be familiar. The one that I'll concentrate on now is the window option. Clicking on this opens up a list of 7 sub-options. The first sub-option is Workspace, which opens up a further 4 options. The first is Save, which allows you to save the current workspace. Once selected, you're presented with an option to name your saved workspace. Click OK to complete the save. A point to note about saved workspaces. Once saved, it's not possible to delete a custom workspace. If you're confident enough and you really want to delete a custom workspace, you need to first make a note of the name of your custom workspace. Make sure that the custom workspace that you want to delete is not the current one. Then close FX Browser down. You can then navigate to this folder. Look for your custom workspace name and delete it. Be extremely careful that you delete the correct file. The second and third options are simply default workspaces designed for the 2 versions of FX Browser, the standalone version and the plugin version, which of course is what I'm dealing with now. The fourth option will reset the UI to the default workspace. The second sub-option will switch the workspace to the advanced UI. The next 5 options enable the display of various windows that may have been removed from the workspace. I'll describe how windows can be removed from the workspace shortly. The bottom bar. At the extreme left of the bottom bar is a directory descriptor. This displays the location of the currently selected preset. At the side of this is a button labelled Reset, which, when clicked, should reset the preset folder to its default location, but it doesn't seem to do anything. I've reported this to Boris FX, who have confirmed this as a bug, which will be fixed in a future update. At the extreme right of the bottom bar are 3 buttons. The left-hand one switches to the main Title Studio UI. The middle one, presumably because it's labelled Cancel, should cancel the session and return you to the NLE UI without saving any changes. However, I've found this not to be the case. Clicking the Cancel button does return you to the NLE UI, but it updates the NLE title with any changes made in the FX Browser UI. This is not expected behavior, so I've reported it to Boris FX. The right-hand button returns you to the NLE after applying any changes. To the left of the Advanced Mode button, there's a checkbox labelled Use Current Timeline Text. With this box checked, the text string entered in the text box will replace the default text in any preset selected. However, I've found that this happens whether the checkbox is checked or not, so I suggest that you ignore this for now. I've reported this to Boris FX and they have confirmed that the bug is present when the operating system is Windows. I've been assured that a fix will be forthcoming in a future update. The UI by default consists of 4 windows as follows: Folders, Presets, Preview, Text and History. Before describing the UI windows, I want to deal with window manipulation. Except for the Ancillaries section, which isn't really a window, each of the 4 windows display a yellow border when selected. Hovering the mouse over any part of the border will change the cursor to an appropriate arrow cursor. Clicking and dragging will change the dimensions of the window. Other windows will change dimensions appropriately. If you left-click and hold a window label, you can move the window and dock it to another position in the UI. When you move a window using this method, you can also dock the window within another window to create tabbed windows. You do this by hovering the mouse over a window header and releasing the mouse button when a label appears stating "Drop here." Hovering the mouse over an area just to the right of the window label will reveal a red spot. If you click this red spot, the window will be removed from the workspace. Note that if you right-click a window label, a context menu is displayed which appears to allow you to close the tab or close other tabs. These options are greyed out and as such do not work. If you remove a window, then find that you want it back again, go to the main menu bar Window option, then select the window that you removed. You can then maneuver it to where you want it. If you mess up completely, just go to the main menu bar Window option and select Workspace, then reset to default workspace. Now we'll go through the UI windows in detail. Folders. By default, displayed at the top of this window is the location of the preset's parent folder. This folder contains subfolders that correspond to the categories containing the presets. Note that this will not be the case if you change the preset location by clicking the drop-down arrow and selecting Choose Folder. Normally this should be left alone, as I've found that restoring the default location isn't straightforward. An option in the drop-down list states Use Default Folder. I've also found that although this option returns a preset window to its default location, the folder list doesn't change. So, unless you have a specific reason for changing the preset location, I strongly suggest that you leave it as default. This issue has also been reported to Boris FX, who have confirmed it as a bug. The option Show Files from Subfolders, if checked, will display all thumbnails in the directory selected. If unselected, the categories will be displayed as folder icons. Any uncategorized presets will be displayed as thumbnails. The folder list displays, in alphabetical order, all the preset categories available in the root folder. A slightly darker category name indicates that it's the one currently selected. Note that the arrows indicate the presence of subcategories. Presets. Selecting a particular preset category in the folder list will display available presets for that category in this window. The two view icons display the presets in either thumbnail mode or text mode. The return arrow will return the thumbnail view to the current category's parent category. The magnifying glass has a search field at its side. Enter some text, then press Enter, and presets containing this text string will be displayed. Now then, as you can see, the search has returned preset names that don't contain 01. I found that the search function not only searches for and returns preset names containing the search string, but it also returns presets that are located in categories with names that contain the search string. I've reported this to Boris FX. Clicking the No Entry sign will clear the search field. Note that the search function will disappear if the window is too narrow. Also note that the search is only carried out within the selected category. To search all presets, select the root category before carrying out the search. The slider allows the thumbnail size to be changed. The preview window displays the selected title preset. I'll deal with this window separately. The text input section is where you enter your custom text. Once entered, you must click the Insert Text button to complete the action. The preview window. At the top of the display is a strip containing settings and information. The first value gives the current preview size as a percentage. Changing the size of the window using the resizing arrow will update this value. The first icon has a drop-down arrow. Clicking this gives a list of preview resolutions with a check mark against the current setting. The second icon also has a drop-down arrow. This gives 3 options with the current option checked. The 3 options determines how the title is composited over the preview background. The first option will composite the title over black. In this case, the title covers the full screen, so it won't composite over black. The second item, composite over checkerboard. Again, because the title is a full screen title, it won't composite over checkerboard. If I select a lower third, you will see the difference. The third option displays the title over the event on the NLE timeline. However, note that this will not be the case if the title studio effect has been applied to an empty event as described in Episode 1. To the right of this is the name of the currently selected preset. At the far right of the preview pane top is an icon shaped like a monitor. If your PC doesn't have an AJA card, then clicking on the icon will display a message stating non-detected. If you do have an AJA card, it's possible to push your FX browser output to an external monitor connected to the card. I don't have an AJA card, so we'll leave it at that. At the bottom of the display is the timeline display and playback controls. As well as the normal playback control icons, information is displayed about the title length, the current playhead position, the display dimensions in pixels, and the current playback speed. The display dimensions are determined by the preview resolution option at the top of the display. The playhead position is signified by the blue line, and the two white tabs above the timeline determine the title start and end points and the playing length within the event. By adjusting these two tabs, the title can be made to play anywhere within the length of the event. Hovering the mouse over the gap between the two white tabs will change the cursor into a hand. Left click and drag will move the playing length. When adjusting, be aware of any title transitions. These will be truncated if the playing length is too short. A point to be aware of when previewing a title. While previewing, the title is cached into RAM. Initially, depending on your system, the preview may stutter a little. Each play of the title builds up the render until it plays smoothly. Any change in the title will force the caching to restart. The text input window. This window has two tabs at the top left-hand side. The Text tab opens up the current text display, which contains one or more text input boxes. This is where you change the default text string or strings to that of your own. It's important to remember to click the Insert Text button when you've completed your text string modification. A couple of points to note about text string modification. If you click the Insert Text button, then modify your text, you must click the Insert Text button again. If you activate the undo function, either with Ctrl+Z or using Edit Undo, you must click the Insert Text button to complete the action. The History tab displays a history of your preset browsing. There are two buttons that display the history as thumbnails or as text. The history is confined to the last 10 unique presets selected. The magnifying glass icon presumably should allow a search of the preset history. However, I haven't been able to get this to work. No doubt it was found to be redundant given the limited browsing history. The slider at the far right controls the size of the thumbnails. Before I finish, I'd just like to say a few words about scrolling within the UI windows using the mouse wheel. The Folders window, because the category list is short, doesn't normally have a scroll bar. If you hold the mouse over this window and use the mouse wheel, the category selection will be scrolled. The preset window is a little less intuitive. If a preset is selected, that is, when it has a yellow border, using the mouse wheel within the window will scroll through the presets. If you need to scroll using the scroll bar, you must hover the mouse over the scroll bar, then use the mouse wheel. Using the mouse wheel over the preview window causes the playhead to move on the timeline, but this is not a fine movement. So that's a detailed description of the FX browser user interface. As I mentioned in episode 1, for creating titles or lower thirds easily and quickly, you really only need to use this interface in conjunction with a basic plugin interface. For more complex titles and for modifying existing animated titles to suit your requirements, you'll need to bite the bullet and enter the amazing world of the advanced user interface. Join me for my next episode, where I'll enter that world and attempt to describe its interface in as much detail as I can. Until then, bye for now. Oh, and if you subscribed, thank you.